And welcome into the Dino Construction Podcast. I'm your host, Justin. Joining me as always, my co hosts, David and JP. Today, we are continuing our Framing a Rookie Draft series where we break down your options with each of the first 12 picks. We are talking today about pick number 104. So, quick little recap of where we are so far in this exercise. Pick 101, Caleb Williams, then Marvin Harrison Jr. At 103, Jaden Daniels. So, with all of that being said, let's throw it to David to talk about who we have in serious consideration here.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. If you've been keeping up with this series, you probably listened to 103 recently. You heard JP lay out the players, and we took one of those three players. Surprise, surprise. The guys we're considering here are the two that weren't drafted. You got Malik Neighbors, who's wide receiver one in a lot of classes, even wide receiver one in this class, and it's a stacked class. Some people have him at wide receiver one over Marv here. May's a big productive quarterback with rushing upside. He's young, got a really high ceiling. Those are the two guys I'm considering here.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I will say the other two players that start to creep into your mind here are guys like Roma Dunze and Brock Bowers, especially in the tight end premium. If he gets a juicy landing spot, yeah, he could rise up. And Roma Dunze, he has really climbed up in the keep trade cut ratings. So we'll keep an eye on them for now, but those are guys that we're probably going to save more so for the next episode or two.
Yeah, there is a lot of value having this pick. Those names David mentioned, especially, are ones that a lot of people are really looking to acquire this pick for. So, given in mind all of that value right here, we're going to hop into our trade segment, as always, exploring what can be done with this pick. Going to sharpen our acumen a little bit with a few trades from dynasty-daddy.com. Gonna throw it over to David here with the 104 and Fields or the 210 and A Rich.
That's tough. So if I want A Rich, then I can take Jaden Daniels here and fill that. So it's Fields or 210. I mean, I do have A Rich above Daniels, so I guess I got to go A Rich here. I don't think Fields is valuable enough to try and buy. Some people are really kind of hyping him up, still thinking he's worth. I mean, I saw him go for basically the 202 in a league the other day. I just don't see him that way. I'm going to take A Rich here. I'll get the established guy. He's a first round startup pick. Let's keep it easy.
Man, I was hoping to get you with that one. JP, we got the 104 or Garrett Wilson.
Oh boy, this is slam dunk for me. I'm going with Garrett Wilson. I really love him as a player. I think he's going to explode this year. We've already seen him be great in the NFL. If the player, 104, maybe you'd say it's just wide receiver purposes and Malik Neighbors, I prefer Garrett Wilson right now.
Alrighty, alrighty. Asking for a friend who is me, 103 or Garrett Wilson.
Ooh, that definitely makes you think a little bit more. Well, in my rankings, I still have Garrett Wilson a little bit higher, but I can see that you go either way with that, especially if you need a quarterback.
Okay, maybe I'll be sending some offers out after the show. David, 104 and 207 for Tila and Ridley. Pick a side.
It's rookie fever season, baby. I'm taking the package of picks here. I think Lawrence and the 104 quarterback you'd be looking at here pretty close in value. I think most times I'd probably prefer Ridley to the 207, but in this class it's pretty deep. I still think 207 is a solid pick. And I also think there's a little more trade value if you're still trying to maneuver a little before the draft. So I'm going to go ahead and take the flexibility of the picks here.
Love the flexibility. Let's see if we can interest JP in a little package here. In a start nine, are we taking the 104 and Tila or Lamar?
Yeah, this one is really tough. And I could really go either way with this one. And what I'm going to say is Lamar, I'd much prefer in a win now scenario. So if it is a win now, I'm going Lamar. But if I'm rebuilding, I'll take the package with the 104 and T Law.
Yeah, I think I would view that pretty similarly. That's definitely a trade. You can understand that got done because it is difficult to really evaluate, meaning it's probably fair. So again, we're going to have to consider making tough trades in our leagues. We're going to have to consider we not always want to make those picks. So let's look at a few specific situations and see what our experts here can cook up. So, JP, we've all taken over orphans. Usually you have limited assets. Sometimes you got to take one of these picks, you got to split them up. What are some directions you're looking to do if you have this pick and you feel like you really just have to split it up into multiple assets?
Yeah, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach out to the owner of the 107 or the 108 in a tight end premium because personally, I think that that tier you could argue extends all the way out to that point. So that's the first thing I would do because if the 104, maybe they are really, really big, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors fans, and they're if they're really, really interested in moving up, I'd be willing to move back and get maybe 2 seconds on top of it, maybe a second and a third. But otherwise, I'm gonna look just for future draft capital in general. Maybe if I can get two first for this, and if you can't get that done, I mean, you could look to just get like a younger wide receiver, like Zay Flowers and a first on top. Because I mean, I personally like Zay Flowers. That's why I use him in this example. So yeah, I just think you're just in general going to want to pick up some future draft capital, and just if you can get two first, that's probably best case scenario.
Yeah, strongly agree. Quick little follow-up question on this. When you're talking about future first you're looking for, how much of a focus are you putting on like evaluating those teams' rosters, really diving in and making sure you think they're likely a fringe playoff team that you could see going the wrong way versus just taking the future firsts?
I think there's a lot. I take that into consideration a lot because if it's going to be too late first, I don't think it's worth it. I wouldn't trade the 104 for the 110 and 112. I would not do that in this draft class. And this draft class you have to consider is really, really strong as well. But yeah, if it's two teams that have a realistic chance to miss the playoffs, I'm going to consider it because in a rebuild, you also trading away that 104 and moving that down the road is you're also getting points off your team, setting yourself up for a better pick, in 2025.
Yeah, I figured you would answer that. Just wanted you to clarify for our audience. Thank you. And moving to David here. So, in our first three videos, we've talked a lot about how we are trading out of these picks. I want to change it up a little bit. Let's say I've developed a draft crush. I know how anti process of me it happens. So, I want a specific guy here. I want to make sure I get him on as many of my rosters as I can. Not a very portfolio play. I don't want to risk trading for the 105. I really want to get in here because I think I know for sure I'll be able to get him here. What type of deals are you kind of looking to make across like a portfolio, just in general, to try to get as much exposure as you can?
Yeah, sure. We're trying to move into the 104 here. We'll take a look at a couple Dynasty Daddy trades. We have 104 for Baker and a 25 first. I think for me that 25 first probably not a playoff 25 first if I'm making that move. Or I guess if I'm moving into 104, probably not an early first if I can avoid it, but it probably is going to have to be honest with you. We've got 104 and 201 for 107 and Pittman, and I really like this trade because I feel like it's very hard to decide on a side. If you really want 104, though, you assume you take a receiver at 201, you're tearing down from Pittman to the receiver you take at 201, using that excess value to get up from 107 to 104. I do like that if your goal is to get 104. We also have 104 and 204 for 106, Swift and Bateman. Probably not going to get done in a ton of leagues, but I do think some people are valuing Swift pretty highly right now. I sold him for the 202 in the league not too long ago. So we do have a little excess value over the 204 in that situation. I'm really going to be trying to move a veteran here instead of a pick if I can. I do like the depth in this class. If we're going to be able to move up from the 105 to the 108, I'm probably only going to be offering like one veteran or a second. If I have to throw in something like a pick swap, a late pick swap or something, I will. But this range, I really love this tier. And even when I develop a draft crush, I try to stay grounded and remind myself that we can't always overpay for players we like. So in this range, I'm going to try and stay to my process. But once we get out of that range, I'll throw in a first if it's 109 to 112, depending on what part of the first you're trading from, how many starters in the league. Kind of depends on how strong that 25 first will be. I'm going to try and avoid trading away too high of a first. But that 109 to 112 range is just so much less value than 104 that you're going to have to pay up for it.
Yeah, I can't see tearing up from the 109 without in that range without paying a future first. I think you're absolutely right on that price point. So, David, I'm going to have to turn you down. Not going to make that trade with you, and I'm going to make a selection here at the 104. But perhaps you two can help me make a decision here. Who do we want to draft at the 104 given who is off the board?
Yeah, if you've been following the series, first of all, thank you. But you also probably just watched the 103 video and you saw me make a case for Malik Neighbors. And I do love Neighbors, but I don't think this is an easy decision. Drake May's 6'4, 220. He's had over 1,200 career rushing yards, 16 career rushing touchdowns. So he had some with his legs. 3-year player in this class. We really love to see that. He's almost 2 years younger than Daniels. He had 2 seasons graded as a starter over 90 by PFF. The only other quarterback in this class I can say that we care about is Caleb Williams. While he did have a better sophomore season than his junior season, there was some excuses. Lost his OC, lost his top 2 targets, and he still had a good season last year. It's not like it was a bad season. So if you're not in a position to avoid the quarterback here, then by all means take Drake May. He's a great value. He's going to have a great landing spot and high draft capital. I can't fault you for taking him here.
Definitely understand that standpoint. I'm definitely leaning a different direction here. The player I'm pretty much always going to be drafting here is going to be Malik Neighbors. So, I mean, statistically speaking, most first downs, highest yards per route run, third most missed tackled forced, highest PFF receiving grade out of all wide receivers last year. So, just a lot of things I really love about this guy. But I'm really kind of like evaluating my process in recent days and looking at some recent data here that every time I've looked at this, so what we have on the screen here is a visualization. Ignore the names. I'm just looking at the color and the color purple. That the majority of trades tracked on dynastydaddy.com here, which is just pulling from Sleeper, etc. Wide receivers. Wide receivers are the most liquid asset. So for me, what I'm really trying to consider here as like sort of a tiebreaker is not just like making a player bet, but making a bet on who is going to retain asset or value, but also who is going to retain value that I can move when I need to. So since it's such a close toss up, I think I am kind of trending in the direction of viewing when there's a toss up between a wide receiver and a QB, considering taking the wide receivers along this premise, unless I really have another reason for making that decision. QBs are not needed by every team. Some teams are already set at QB. Some teams don't want to spend up for QB. They'd rather go with the budgets at QB, the Kirk Cousins, the Baker Mayfields. Not everyone's looking for those price points. Every single team needs wide receivers, always interested to trade for it. So I'm kind of reevaluating my process along these lines.
Yeah, those are both really, really strong arguments for both players here. Both are great prospects that they have realistic arguments to be the QB1 and wide receiver one in this class. I've seen it, by different people in the industry. But this is just a phenomenal class in general, and for them to be in that conversation is just incredible. Now, since the last episode, Justin made the wrong choice, I'm gonna make the right choice here. We're gonna go Drake May here, who is my 103 personally. If you haven't listened to the 101 video, check it out. But I expanded more upon this in that episode. But I pretty much illustrate deeper that with the quarterbacks, looking at from year one to year two, they actually either increase or maintain value at a pretty high clip. And also, when you consider just the upside that a quarterback has in value for Superflex, I mean, you look at the first round of a startup draft, it's 8 to 10 of the first 12 picks are going to be quarterback. So, yeah, that's why I'm leaning towards taking the quarterback here. And that's where we are going for the 104 today.
All right. I guess I can't win them all. And this does put the 104 pick into frame with Drake May sitting right into the middle of it. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Framing a Rookie Draft. We do hope you found this as helpful for you as it was for us. Please remember to like and subscribe wherever you view or listen. And from all of us here at Dino Construction, until next time.